Hello everyone. On behalf of HS Events, I'd like to welcome you to DAM Asia Pacific 2023. I'm delighted to welcome our chair for the day, Andrew Lomas. Thank you, Andrew. Over to you.
Thank you, Jeanette, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in our wonderful region. Welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us on this our third Henry Stewart DAM Asia Pacific event. It's great to see so many of you joining us from across Asia Pacific and the globe to celebrate everything that is digital asset management. My name, as Jeanette said, is Andrew Lomas. I am the co-founder and CEO of Creative Folks, a specialist solution and systems integration company based in Sydney, Australia. I've been implementing DAMs and workflow solutions since 1990 across ANZ, and my team navigates the developments and enhancements in the use of DAM, and especially in the benefits of integration and automation. I'm very thankful, as I'm sure you all are, that the Henry Stewart team has invested again in this importantly focused event for our region. Their DAM events in Europe and in America are the pinnacle meeting place for so many great minds and DAM users, and where DAM is used across so many different situations, organizations, and the mixing of digital assets and contextual and factual metadata is so important to the day-to-day functioning. This event, however, is squarely focused on examples from APAC, and I'm so glad you've been able to support us with your time today for this event. And join us for a day of knowledge sharing and inspiration of how digital asset management can really underpin the digital transformation, global marketing, and of course, preservation of our history and artifacts. In Asia Pacific, over the last 3 years of running these events, I've observed a maturation as the use of DAM expands. There's a greater adoption of integration and automation where DAM supports processes and the delivery of content. And in the 6 sessions today, you'll hear where DAM supports these functions that are key to each of those organizations. What we see more is the adoption of DAM technology to support broader teams, bigger organizations, instead of just being point products. With this broader adoption and integration, the successful deployment of DAM brings a greater need for project governance and change management. In our first session today with Nestlé, and in the last of the day with the Queensland Art Gallery, Gallery of Modern Art, we talk about the importance of planning these implementations as part of transformation initiatives and monitoring user adoption to ensure success and to build bridges. To support these organization-wide implementations, the use of integrations and automation is crucial. DAMs don't live in isolation anymore. And as such, you need to architecturally plan and continue to improve the composable ecosystem that they support. You'll see the use of integrations and automations all throughout today's topics, but in our session with Nike is one that highlights the need for a digitally native approach. Sticking with technology, and on the topic of everybody's lips, AI and machine learning, in the panel today, we'll discuss its virtues, how it can help your DAM, how it can extend its functionality, and what to be aware of in terms of what it can and cannot deliver from a digital asset management perspective. Of course, having a centralized place for digital assets means you need workflows to upload, review, and approve the content, normalize it to ensure that it conforms to the quality and metadata structures that you have implemented, and then mechanisms to distribute this content to the audience that wants to consume it. In the session with Zoom TV I have later on, we discussed managing the digital asset supply chain and the scale of video consumption. And in the Quagoma session with Shane Appleby at the end of the day, he goes into details around their publication creation processes and the DAM workflows that they maintain. But of course, a DAM conference wouldn't be a DAM conference if there wasn't a session on the wonders of metadata and taxonomy. So Sanchita from Airbnb is going to discuss how to create a robust taxonomy in 5 easy steps. So again, I'd like to thank you all to DAM Asia Pacific 2023, and I'd like to thank all the speakers who are joining us today and have given up that time. And before we start with Nestlé, a little bit of housekeeping around the events platform that we've got. During each of the sessions, we'd encourage you to chat with the fellow attendees. In the section just underneath each one, you'll see a little shield, and in that shield, you've got the option to go into there and there's a session. To the right of that, there's a little speech bubble where it says Q&A. If you want to lodge your questions, I'll be moderating those questions as they come in. I'll collect those together. And of course, we'll be asking those questions of each of our speakers at the end of each session. I'll do my best to submit as many as I can, but obviously if there isn't the opportunity to ask all of them, then I'll collate those, and feel free to reach out to me afterwards if your questions don't get answered, and I'll make sure I'll follow up and get back to you in due course. A shout out to our sponsor OpenText for supporting the event. Please visit them through the conference via the exhibition tab. You can find out more. And if at any point during the event you need assistance from the Henry Stewart team, who are stalwarts in staying up in the middle of the night in the UK to support us, then please use the chat bot at the bottom right of your screen in the Hublio platform, and they'll assist you with the platform questions that you may have. Any thoughts, ideas, concepts you also want to share socially, then please use the hashtag DAMAPAC. That's DAMAPAC. And enough of me, and without further ado, I'll introduce you to our first speakers. Kelly Pepper, who is the Global Practice Lead of Managed Services from ICP, will introduce a session to discuss what it takes to make a village. And Aniruddha from ICP will then be asking questions of Mark and Jenica, who are from Nestlé, who manage and run their DAM. And they'll be talking about their experiences of bringing together key components to build a successful team and to make DAM fit and work in your organization. So enough from me. I'll be in and out during the day. Thanks very much again for joining, and over to you, Kelly.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Andrew. We're excited to be here, and welcome everyone again to DAM Asia Pacific. I'll be kind of kicking us off with a few sort of key concepts and information that will ground the conversation that Aniruddha and the Nestlé team will have right after me. So we'll just go through a couple of slides again. So what does it really take? You know, a digital asset management platform. These are the types of groups that are going to make up that DAM village. You and your sort of, maybe your business users, they're only going to see and maybe only care about those finding their assets, making sure that they can search and find the content that they need very quickly. But the reality is that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's all this stuff happening underneath, and a lot of sort of different blend of expertise, and often a blend of internal and external teams as well. So this is where, just to name a few and to focus in on this, is that DAM product team, really treating that digital asset management platform as a product and partnering with your IT. But also thinking of digital asset management as a program, something that never stops and continues on and continues to need to be supported. So that product and program sort of together. You're often going to have an asset migration team, especially if you've got a lot of content that you're either moving into a new system or constantly migrating from other platforms. But also, again, that marriage of internal and external expertise. So making sure that you continue to engage your legal team. Don't forget the lawyers at your business. That's where the lawyers are often some of your biggest users, and can also be your biggest advocates for the great help that a digital asset management platform, when done properly with proper usage rights, can really help them out. Continuing to focus in on that agency relationship management, stakeholder management, making sure that all of your different user groups are involved and supporting and using that digital asset management platform. So just a reminder that it does take a village, and it is always going to be a blend of expertise and a blend of teams that really bring your digital asset management platform to life and get the most out of it. And remembering to govern your DAM processes to ensure consistency. So this is where, a lot of times you'll have a governance group or a governance council, whatever you'd like to call it. It is that mixed group of people that support your digital asset management platform and allow you to make better, more holistic business decisions, especially as your DAM is probably maturing over time and having more users. It's not going to be focused on just one team or one department, and making sure that you're continuing to serve a very varied group. So having that group, having it exist, having clear objectives that of course fuel your business outcomes, making sure there's appropriate ownership, that the right people are at the table, and then just some deliverable examples of things that a governance group or council would produce. Things like metadata models or updates to metadata models, change requests, training updates, those types of things. And the benefits from this type of group are wonderful, including increased stakeholder engagement. That's where bringing people along with you on your DAM journey is going to get you a lot of buy-in, especially if the sooner you engage them, the better. They're involved and they're bought in, and they're gonna continue to advocate and truly be your ambassadors. You'll also have more informed metadata and taxonomy decisions, because again, you'll be engaging with those people and asking them the right questions of how do you search, what kind of tags do you need, supporting your interconnected processes, especially as your DAM becomes more integrated and touches other systems and pushes content to other systems, and really again making those more holistic business decisions because you have this initial sort of internal group. And of course, reporting the value to the business. This is where a DAM support team, your DAM village, is always going to be an investment. But of course, we do see a return on investment. And so there's some examples here on the screen. Cost reduction is a great thing to communicate back to the business as far as cost avoidance by using existing assets and making sure you're constantly checking the DAM first for content before you go out and make something new. Making sure that your brand assets are more consistent. A digital asset management platform can often be measured in terms of speed, making sure that you're producing things back to market faster, distributing content faster to your retailers, and other examples like that. So this is again just some sort of grounding information. And now I'm actually going to kick this over to my colleague Aniruddha, also of ICP, and we're going to hear from Aniruddha and the Nestlé team to really bring these kind of concepts to life, to see how this works in practice rather than in theory.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for that informative
Welcome.
presentation. And welcome Mark and Jenica to your first DAM Asia Pacific conference.
Thank you.
And welcome everyone. Thanks for joining the session. We are going to be talking about powering your DAM with the right resources for internal and external collaborative support, and how this was successfully implemented at Nestlé. Let's get into it, Mark. First up, we cannot talk about digital asset management without touching base on digital transformation. So when did the digital transformation journey start with Nestlé?
Thanks, Aniruddha. For Nestlé, it was approximately a decade ago. Even though prior to that, we already saw the shift in how our consumers would get information and entertainment. So obviously shifting from traditional media to more on the digital space, and also how we saw them, starting to procure goods and services beyond traditional channels and more on e-commerce. So with this shift, we started prioritizing a little bit more on, especially in the commercial area, focusing on more, as we called it, versus the more traditional way we would use our marketing and sales budgets, and definitely being more active on social media, early forays into websites back then. And really the prioritization was capability building across the organization. So not just for the people operating in the markets, but even with senior management. So we established initiatives like digital acceleration teams and things like this to make sure that we embraced the shift and grew the awareness across the organization on the value of not just digital transformation in the marketing area, but across the different functions as well.
Right. So a follow-up question to that: how is Nestlé accelerating its digital transformation to constantly drive growth and agility?
Right. So again, in the commercial area, let me let's say summarize it into three main pillars. Okay, we know that data is king, so we prioritize really engaging with our consumers using data as a growth engine. So consumer first, and really understanding how our customers, consumers engage with our brands, our services along the customer journey. So whether it's on social media, engaging with them directly, and how do we not just take the understanding from big data, but even, let's say, the more holistic, detailed understanding that we have in each category, and how do we activate our consumers through the data that we get. The second pillar is obviously, we saw that there's a much accelerated need for personalization at scale. We've heard this term before. So obviously we needed to level up our content, right? And this means driving performance through integrated communication, not just in terms of how we communicate with them, but also how they experience our brands at the retail level, and then how they evaluate our brands, and how we get them back into the customer cycle from it. So our content needed to explode in terms of personalization, as well as giving them experiences that were more tailor fit for their particular needs. And then I would say the third pillar would obviously be performance tracking, evaluating the performances of our campaigns and then iterating as it needed. So we call it always on analytics, and how do we continue to optimize that for growth?
Great. And how does the DAM system align with Nestlé's digital transformation strategy?
So it's very much connected to the second pillar that I mentioned, which is next level content, right? There's a need for a significant amount of content to create personalized experiences at scale for each stage of the customer journey, especially if you take into account language, culture, regional nuances, and things like this. Infant nutrition is a big example, because there are different stages along the mother's journey, right? So just the kind of content needed for a category like that is massive. So this cuts across several areas in digital transformation, including content models, websites, social media, CRM, and digital commerce. So the sheer volume of content makes digital asset management absolutely critical, as we know. So from the proper organization and categorization of marketing assets, definitely getting the organization used to having one repository for all the Nestlé marketing assets that we have, as you can imagine. The ease of use in terms of UX and searchability, knowledge of performance tracking for specific assets and campaigns, because the cycle is quite quick, and as well as proper management of things that were mentioned by Kelly a while ago, like legal, like usage rights. And then ultimately, how do we speed up the adoption of the users for this, and how do we educate them, both in terms of the need for it and also the actual practical application of using the DAM system.
Thank you. I hope you guys can hear me clearly.
Yep.
Thank you. So next up, obviously, we all know that any successful digital asset management implementation requires far more than just the right technology. What are the challenges you faced to create a strong foundation of all the elements that are essential for the DAM practice? People, process, data, and technology.
Thanks, Aniruddha. With this, I think let me turn it over to Jenica, who has the first-hand experience in this particular question. Go ahead, Jenica.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Let's start with the first challenge, people. By the way, Nestlé faced a lot of challenges when we started to set up our own DAM tool way back 7 years ago. So in terms of people, we tried to start recruiting people, right, from marketing field, but digital asset management is not being taught in the universities or in colleges. So that's the first thing. How are we going to train these people firsthand? What they know about marketing is about sales, how to advertise your products and your services, but managing your digital assets in a platform very new to you is the first challenge. And here comes the process, which is another new thing in the field of these new recruit people. So when we have these challenges, we started to really set the target. What do we want to achieve? What are our goals here? So we can also train the people. And then in terms of processes, we set our scope of work and what are the ways of working that we wanted to to start within the team. In terms of data and technology, again, this is new to us. So way back then, our very first DAM tool is not that advanced yet. So how we manage our data is kind of hard for us. We started using Excel because from the DAM to Excel, it's also hard in terms of technology. Not all of the markets have the advanced technology. So it's overall, it's a challenge for Nestlé.
Yep, sounds familiar. So, I think next up, I'm gonna just talk about a landmark event that kind of changed the global landscape when it came to digital marketing, and that was COVID. So how did Nestlé adapt to these changes?
Sure, thanks, Aniruddha. Obviously, we all experienced this at the same time. With Nestlé, I'm sure it has a lot in common with a lot of the other organizations, but definitely acceleration of campaigns, marketing campaigns on social media, including working more, let's say, closely with influencers. I can say that for our brands. The acceleration of how to reach out to consumers, right, including CRM and really the collection of first-party data, because as we were all stuck at home, the need for digital ways of connecting with the people that would use our services became much more urgent. And with all of this acceleration of capability building for our teams in terms of search, websites, and how to operate more effectively in the digital space. But I would say the biggest impact to us was obviously the speeding up of digital commerce, making it all the more necessary for content adaptation, and the digital asset management space definitely got accelerated during COVID. And the e-commerce capabilities of our organization, both in terms of the way that our commercial teams would use it, and also the way that the marketing and sales support functions needed to use it. So, and then ultimately, a better understanding of how our digital efforts, our digital campaigns affected conversion, right? Because obviously when we were all stuck at home and there were lockdowns in various degrees across the world, we needed to understand, to what degree we could see digital marketing campaigns affecting conversion in terms of digital retail channels. Yeah. So now that in a lot of our markets, the restrictions have eased, what's interesting to see is the continuation of things that were accelerated during the COVID period, some of which have slowed down a bit. But what was interesting to see was that the adoption, let's say, of e-commerce, the e-intensity of our sales businesses, and the need for leveled up content continues to this day. So I thought that was at least one interesting after effect of the pandemic.
Thanks. So again, getting back to DAM, the benefits of DAM system are only as good as the user's ability to put it to use. So how do you manage the user experience for searching, finding, and using assets in the DAM? And what are the pain points?
Go ahead, Jenica.
Yeah. So in terms of helping the market find or search their asset, we started doing general tagging rules. So way back then, even if it's just for Nescafe or for Purina, we have a general tagging rules. But then comes the pain points, because the Nescafe people will not search the way the pet care people will use that. So we decided to have a very specific tagging rules specifically for your category or your own portal. So we started doing that. But again, here comes another pain point. It's very subjective. Maybe the librarians or the ones tagging the digital assets have a different perspective. Let's say before we had a challenge in Nescafe red mug, the iconic red mug for Nescafe. We're just tagging it as mug or cup, but in the field of Nescafe, they tried to search that specific item in a very different way. So what we did after the specific tagging rules, we also started to include our librarians in a more intensified brand expertise, wherein they should also know what's happening in the brand guidelines, portfolio, toolkits, or perhaps even in their own campaigns. So that's how we help them search and find their assets in the DAM tool.
Great. So too often we see organizations invest in DAM systems only to see them fail due to lack of user adoption. So what is Nestlé's strategy to manage the key factors driving DAM user adoption? Change management, training, communications.
Right. So let me take the first part of this, and then I'll turn back over to Nika. Obviously, the first one is to set a common goal, right? And the objective for the digital asset management area, including the purpose. What is it? So it comes back to brilliance at the basics. We first need to align with, let's say, the zones and the markets in terms of why this particular system is needed, and that has to be linked to the value that it will generate in terms of savings, which is always going to be a priority, as well as the speed and effectivity it can help in terms of generating top line growth. Because if you don't need to keep, repurposing or let's say reshooting a particular marketing campaign, then we can respond to consumers even faster. And then I'll turn this over to Janica now, but it really comes back to communication and constant relationship building within both the internal and the external teams. Go ahead, Nika.
Yeah, and coming back to the question earlier, like it also helped the team or the market search and find their assets, right? Because if we created this and we stored this in a common digital asset ecosystem, it's also easy for you to find it here. So it's just communicating what are the best benefits that you can have if you do the adoption in our own tool.
Great. Andrew, any questions?
Maybe to add one more to that, one critical thing that we've noticed is really top-down management support. So if it's being supported, let's say by a zone head or the market head, then the adoption goes much faster. Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, just checking if there are any questions from the audience.
Sorry. Yes. A couple here, and a couple of my own, to be honest. One question from the audience is, any advice or learnings on how to manage usage rights effectively at scale? And I think that's, one of the challenges, certainly as a brand goes through its life, you've got the iconic red mug for Nescafe, that's obviously changes in terms of what that red mug looks like. Making sure that people are using the right one, they're not creating their own little nests of collections of content of their own, but also ensuring that, the rights, it might be talent that you've got in there, depending on the shop. How are you managing that at scale, given that this is a global access? Anything you can share there?
So as mentioned by Kelly earlier, always involve your legal team, right? So even if we are the librarians, it's not our expertise, right? So it's important to have your own legal team per category, per brand. Always involve them because it's a legal matter that out of our scope. So that's one thing. We're making sure that each brand that we're dealing with have their own legal team so we can talk to them, right? And then in terms of how to manage it well, that's where we come in, right? How you can upload it directly to them, what are the things that you need to check. But before that, your legal team should prepare everything before that tagging and uploading happens. And
are you reflecting those legal decisions in the DAM? So that's
yes.
your role in terms of translating those legal decisions around that content?
Yeah, making sure that whatever are the details available in that URD, in that document, should also be mirrored and available in the system.
Just extending on from that, there's often a confusion and a conversation between access rights and usage rights. So obviously access rights are ensuring that only a team that's belonging to a particular brand is accessing the assets from that particular brand, or even within your own workflows, not accessing those assets until they've been approved, for example. So that's access rights.
Yeah.
But obviously with usage rights, how does the social person know that that is the right image to be able to, that's been licensed to be able to use socially, versus I know recently I've been doing them with students, and they'll authorize themselves to be on a brochure in an open day at a university, but they don't want to be on the side of a bus, right? Because that's not where they want to be. So do you have those challenges within your own brand, and
Yes, before, when we don't have yet this current tool that we're using, we're facing very the same issue. But now we also integrated that with the tool. So when you're trying to use an asset that should not be for you, the tool will pop a message or will restrict you from downloading a specific digital asset simply because it's not for you, right? So two things here. It's what is the usage rights is telling, and also your access. So we are also taking this to connected your access management and your URD management. So if I'm from the Philippines and I wanted to access something that's from the US that should not be for the Philippines, I will not be able to download that. So the tool is really playing a key role here as well in terms of
Okay, so
access
you've
and usage.
integrated another tool that manages and controls that in conjunction with your DAM. Okay, that speaks to a composable implementation. All right, thank you very much. Another question I've got here. Any advice on how to onboard new employees as contributors within a global organization to the DAM, and B, to get users to adhere to best practice and understand the importance of metadata? So I guess the talking with that is, you got external contributors, people who aren't within your control or remit, but they need to provide content into the DAM. How do you ensure that the metadata standards and the processes that, is it the hard stick approach of you can't upload it unless you've applied all the metadata? How do you moderate that? How do you bring on new suppliers and other people to conform to those processes?
So let's start with onboarding and involving other people. When we have new people in the team, we make sure that he or she is going to handle a very specific brand. So before, we had this challenge of trying to be an expert of all the brands. So now we're trying to be an advocate of brand expertise. So that's how we prepare. So the training materials is very specific to a brand. Whatever videos or documents that you're trying to learn or study is specifically for one brand, right? So that's the way we target and how to onboard new people in the team. Do you want to add anything, Mark?
Yeah, I think the other thing is really about it might be helpful if even within the markets themselves, works with the librarian or the DAM team, the centralized DAM team, to also address that concern of best practice, right? Because frequently what we see is that, for example, Nika and her team can liaise with different market champions across, let's say, zones or categories or markets, and they can share outside of that current brand's experience, right? So it's really about the proactivity of your DAM team to liaise with the different, let's say, key components in a global organization that then can share best practices and accelerate learning.
Right, so you're extending your own kind of train the trainer, change champion kind of thing into region, making sure that they've got eyes and control over reinforcing those capabilities. Yeah, I've seen that myself. It's definitely a key bit, and that's where the governance and the top-down support needs to be in play to make sure that those roles are recognized, and making sure that those people have a remit within their responsibility that is part of keeping that going. I guess one last thing, it sounds like you started with an early DAM sort of 7 years ago. You're sort of 10 years into your transformation. When did you realize you needed a DAM? And then once you were using a DAM, what made you go, hang on, this DAM isn't really what we need. We need something, because it sounds like you've matured and you moved to another platform. Don't need to go into platform names of what they are. It's more about that decision tree between your DAM 1.0, and your DAM 2.0 experience and where you're sitting, and what were the driving forces behind that? You mentioned managing data and Excel sheets and that kind of stuff. Maybe you could just touch on that quickly.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll touch on the first part, Nika. I think that the organization obviously realized they needed a DAM when they saw the sheer amount of content, marketing assets, whatever you want to call them, that would be needed, and the potential in terms of being able to get efficiencies. Yeah, Kelly showed it in one of her earlier slides as the benefit, because as you can imagine, Nestlé has huge amounts of content
imagine.
generated, right, by marketing campaigns. And then in terms of the evolution of the dam, let me turn you back over to Nika.
Yeah. So when we had our dam tool 1.0, it's not that advanced. And then we don't have other markets to benchmark with. But as we mature, we started to realize how content is very important, and we see other companies trying to spearhead as well their dam tool. So now, way back then, even storing the assets is kind of hard. Imagine we have these markets within Asia as well that's not yet techy, they don't have advanced technology. They used to send their hard drives here in the Philippines.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
For us to upload their digital assets in the platform. And what's funny is we will then send it again to them. So that's also maybe the turning point for us to really accelerate and
there's an evolution in the
advanced.
general technology and support with industry. Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks for that. Look, time's up. It's been great talking to you. Appreciate your time. Thanks very much for sharing everything. We'll finish up now. I'd like to thank Kelly and Mark and Anita and everyone that's been involved today. Really appreciate your time.